You ever wonder why some people who have everything, I'm talking millions of dollars, huge success, all the respect in the world, somehow end up losing it all? Well, it's not about bad luck, and it's definitely not because they're bad at making money. It's about a mindset, a really dangerous one that's way more common than you think. To really get this, let me tell you a quick story. It's about a guy who had already made it. He'd won the game, he had millions. And even with all that success, he lost it all. Poof, gone, every last cent. Now here's the really wild part, how he lost it. It wasn't because his skills got rusty or he was a bad investor. In fact, he was absolutely brilliant at making money. The real reason, the thing that brought the whole house of cards down, was this little voice in his head, this feeling that no matter how much he had, it just wasn't enough. And that feeling, well, that was his undoing. This story is a perfect cautionary tale. It shows us a fatal flaw in thinking. So let's really dig into how this mindset works and how it can just completely unravel a lifetime of success. I mean, think about it. This investor, he truly had it all. By any normal standard, he was living the absolute dream. A beautiful house, a massive portfolio that could have set up his family for generations, and, the respect of everybody in his industry. He already had enough. But then, one day, being content just wasn't good enough anymore. He started looking over the fence. He stopped focusing on everything he'd built and started focusing on what the other guys had. And that one little thought, that was the beginning of the end. So to try and catch up to that private jet crowd, he just threw out the entire playbook that made him successful in the first place. He started taking these huge, completely unnecessary risks. He was borrowing tons of money to make his bets even bigger, basically gambling on things he had no control over. And for a while, he was flying high, probably feeling like a genius. But here's the thing about the market. It doesn't care how you feel. And one day, it did exactly what markets do from time to time. It crashed. Hard. And just like that, it was over. All those borrowed bets that made his wins feel huge, well, they made his losses catastrophic. The wealth he spent his whole life building was just gone. His reputation as this brilliant investor totally shattered. He was right back where he started, at zero. So look, this isn't just a story about one person making some bad calls. It's a perfect example of this really powerful and destructive psychological trap, what we call the never enough mindset. What it really boils down to is this urge to just keep pushing, keep raising the stakes, not because you actually need to, but just because you feel like you have to. It's that moment when wanting more completely overshadows appreciating what you already have, and it pushes you to take these foolish risks that can wipe out years of hard work in an instant. And this right here is the absolute core lesson. Getting rich, that's one skill, but staying rich, that requires something totally different. And honestly, something much, much harder. It's knowing when to stop pushing your luck, knowing when to just say, you know what, this is enough. But the price you pay for constantly chasing more, it isn't just financial. It's like being on a psychological treadmill that has a very steep and very personal cost. So here's how the trap works. You hit a goal, right? Something you've been working on for years. But instead of feeling happy or satisfied, you immediately just set a new, bigger goal. And then after that one, another. The finish line keeps moving, so you never, ever get that feeling of having actually won. And if you look at the results of this endless chase, it's pretty bleak. Your happiness just flatlines because you're never satisfied. But at the same time, with every new goal you set, your risk level just keeps climbing higher and higher, making some kind of collapse not just a possibility, but pretty much an inevitability. And this isn't some weird abstract idea. We see it happening all the time. The stock trader who makes a fortune and then loses it all on one greedy, stupid bet. The successful business owner who runs their own company into the ground by expanding way too fast. Or the celebrity who makes millions and somehow ends up broke. It's always the same pattern. Okay, so just understanding the problem is a huge first step. But the good news is you can actually protect yourself from it. The whole solution is about building guardrails for your ambition. And it all starts with figuring out what enough actually means to you. Building these guardrails really comes down to 4 pretty simple but really powerful habits. First, you have to define your enough number, a real, concrete number that grounds you. Second, you have to actively practice gratitude so you appreciate what you have right now. Third, you have to consciously get off that social comparison hamster wheel. And finally, you got to set your risk limits before you're in the heat of the moment making decisions. So let's make it super simple. Here are the do's and the don'ts. Do take profits when you have them, play the long game, and always, always keep a safety buffer. Don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Don't bet the whole farm on one thing, and learn to resist that little voice that says, just a little more.
Okay, this brings us to the final, and I think the most important idea of all. It's about completely rethinking what it even means to have wealth.
This is the big one. You could have $10 billion in the bank, and it might not feel like enough. Or you could have way, way less and feel totally secure and content. Enough isn't some number you finally reach. It's a choice. It's a decision you make. Because at the end of the day, what is the real point of money? It's to give you options, control over your time. It's supposed to give you freedom. But that freedom is only real if you actually claim it by deciding that you have enough. Otherwise, you don't own your wealth. Your wealth owns you. So I'll leave you with this final question to chew on. In this relentless chase for more, are you actually building a life of freedom, or are you just building a prettier cage? The choice, when it comes right down to it, is all yours.